From the Fans Talk Wrestling family at fanstalkwrestling.com, this is episode 12 of Fans Talk Lucha. It covers Lucha Underground Season 1, episode 22, which aired on April 8th, 2015. My name is Garvin, and as always, we are joined by my wife.
Hola.
And she has the most sexiest voice ever today.
Sinus colds are sexy.
Fans Talk Lucha is a podcast series that is brought to you exclusively by the paid members of the FTW community. And you can head on over to fanstalklucha.com for more information about us, how to get involved, and the full archive. All right, some shout-outs before we get started. We just want to welcome all of our new listeners. We saw our subscribers count of the new Fans Talk Lucha feed explode over the last week. Not even a week in, and already seeing a lot of new faces, listening on Stitcher and SoundCloud. Please share us with your friends and family and leave a rating and review on iTunes to help us get higher in the search results for Lucha Underground. And really, it was another great week on YouTube as our friends Diva Jill, Liberty Watcher, Give Lucha a Chance, DJ Clean Styles, Blue Cactur, and Stony Guerrero continued a conversation that we started here last week on FTL012. Thanks to just about everyone for telling us about their thoughts on the whole Big Rick money exchange segment from last week that started the show. Apparently, it was very obvious to you that Rick is a gangster and was extorting money from Cuerno. But still, it was awfully convenient that Cuerno just had these two evenly stacked and banded bills in his desk drawer just for them. It was...
Cuerno's a pimp. I'm not surprised. It was probably all singles.
Yeah, it was, I don't know. It was just an odd segment. There was nothing that led up to that to suggest that he was a gangster. But I guess, that's one of those subtleties that we just don't get. DJ Clean Styles and Give Lucha a Chance both talked about the upcoming Sexy Star versus Pentagon Jr. feud that we talked about last week. And seriously, that needs to happen. Luckily though, I think we came very close to it this week. So let's get right into what happened this week. We started off with just like every week, we get a video package that kind of builds up what happened last week, what's coming up this week. That video package really pushed the idea of Sexy Star versus Pentagon Jr., their little feud that they're starting. The whole trios tournament, what happened. And Puma and Konnan. There was a lot of stuff between Puma and Konnan, as well as the Hernandez addition to that. Backstage, Cuerno wants Puma and Konnan to be a part of the trios tournament. The reason being is that he wants his top guy, which is Puma, to be in that tournament to basically raise the credibility of that championship. So so he wants Puma and Konnan to find two partners for the tournament, but he also books Puma versus the captain of the team that they're going to face next week in a match this week, and that is King Cuerno, and it's for the title. Moving on from that, we have Son of Havoc, Ivelisse, and Angelico versus Drago, Aerostar, and Phoenix. This is for the trios tournament, so an oddly matched up team as far as Phoenix. This is the first time we've seen Phoenix in Lucha Underground since his match with Meal. No Katrina, which I thought was pretty
she was very absent from this.
And also Drago versus Aerostar. They basically just built up their tension that started last week with their match in their best of 5 series. So we're starting to see a lot of dysfunction between all of these teams, which is it's kind of interesting because there is no one favorite as far as like a gelling team outside of Big Rick and his family.
I think watching this, it was pretty obvious why they didn't include Katrina. This whole episode, they were pushing trios, so she would have just been an unwelcome number thrown into the mix there. This was a pretty good match. Ivelisse did some really good moves. She did this really sweet backwards bicycle kick that I've never seen before.
It was like a heel kick, but she
over
bent,
her own shoulder.
Yeah. It was
almost
crazy.
Like an ice skater move, how they twist their legs up over their heads, but it was pretty good. The thing that disappointed me was that they didn't parade out Son of Havoc to the very end of the match, and his primary function in this match seemed to be to perpetuate the harsh feelings between him and Ivelisse since their breakup. He was almost there as a prop.
Well, no, he was there to be awesome and get the crowd involved in the match.
He did, but they didn't. They didn't prance him out there till the very end of the match, really.
Yeah, because you had that whole interaction where Ivelisse kept tagging herself in, and Helico definitely wanted to be the major part of that team in that match, even though he got destroyed the entire match.
Yeah, there was a lot of storytelling going on, and it was good, but because there were so many people, it was a little hard to follow. I liked it overall, though. It was a good match.
Yeah, so when it was announced that this was going to be the team, by far, this was in my mind, I don't know about you, but that this was going to be the most dysfunctional team. There was no way they were going to survive. Surprisingly, the team of Drago and Aerostar proved to be more dysfunctional. They just kind of battled back and forth, both verbally and physically throughout the match. And that's what ended up causing, Son of Havoc to be able to pick up a win despite Ivelisse leaving him out to dry and not tagging him in. She left.
She was almost out of the arena completely. Yeah. And I think you're right. Really, the point of this was they're supposed to be trios, and none of them were working together. In fact, they were almost working with the other teams to defeat their own team in many ways.
Yeah. So we've got two more teams that were announced today, or I'm sorry, in this week's episode. So we'll talk about this, but right now, just looking at how things are going, the fact that Son of Havoc continues to be on this win streak, continues to get the backing of the crowd like he has been, and doesn't need anyone to really continue to do well. I mean, again, Angelico did barely anything. Ivelisse, while she did great as a wrestler during the match, she walked out on the team. So it was really all on Son of Havoc's shoulders, and it almost seems like this team, surprisingly, is like a favorite almost to win this whole tournament. Because all the other teams have some kind of dysfunction outside of the Big Rick, Mac, and Killshot.
I could see it, but I really think the primary focus is going to be their infighting.
Sure. Backstage, Konnan tells Puma, again, we have another backstage segment where Puma's warming up. Konnan interrupts, and he tells Puma that he found him a perfect partner, and that is Hernandez. So it was pretty obvious that that's the direction they were going to go. Konnan was like, you're gonna need to find another partner. And Johnny Mundo is there. Johnny Mundo says that Puma already came to him to be a partner, so there's your three. There's your three members.
Is that what they were talking about?
Yes.
Because they kept saying the word bateau, and
sure,
I took how many years of French? Like 4 years of French, and in French that is very close to the French word for boat. So I'm like, why are they going to get on a boat? It doesn't make sense.
It's Spanish for something derogatory, I believe. I really don't know. I'm not,
YouTube research team.
Yeah.
Get on this.
I know that's been a term that has been thrown around by Konnan, and basically anyone who is Spanish in WWE or WCW.
They just kept saying it over and over, and I'm like, where's this boat?
So to me, the way it was used in context, and hopefully someone will correct that. We'll get corrected, I know, but the way it was used in context seemed like it didn't matter who it was. It was just like a common person or like, a throwaway partner. It didn't matter because they have Hernandez and Puma, and that's a perfect team, to themselves. I took it as a derogatory term. I think that's what it is.
I do not want to pass judgment, so I'm just going to assume it means gentleman or gentle person.
So, Konnan obviously is upset that Mundo is involved, and Puma went to Mundo. They've got that ongoing verbal feud where Konnan doesn't trust him.
Well, and he's kind of like Puma's keeper, and I'm not really sure who set up that arrangement, but clearly Puma's getting tired of that.
Yeah, and it was also strange just because the fact that Puma went to Mundo, even though we really haven't seen we haven't seen Puma talk at all. And This was actually pointed out by @Mark_Noyce on Twitter. He said, it only hit me this week, but I think Prince Puma is yet to say a single word on Lucha Underground. That's totally right. He hasn't said a thing. So
I thought maybe we'd seen him speak once in a segment with Dario.
No, he's always been super quiet. It's always been Konnan that's been speaking for him. All right, so we got Superfly versus Sexy Star. This was booked by Dario Cuerno, and Dario, is it Dario or Dario?
I think it depends on if you're from Cleveland or if you're from Boyle Heights.
Cuerno comes out and basically says that he knows they're friends, and he knows last week that Sexy Star showed Superfly mercy by not letting Pentagon Jr. break his arm. So this week he wants no mercy. He wants them to go at it. So he turns it into a mask versus mask match.
I love him. First of all, he looked very good today. In those stage lights, you could see he's got a little silver on his temples. Good look, Mr. Cuerno.
Great, okay.
But I love him because he comes right out and says, you can have friendship or you can have ambition in this arena, and you can only have one of those things. Fantastic.
Yeah, and that's the ongoing theme that we keep seeing. Whether it's Aerostar versus Drago, he's constantly pitting the two faces, the two friends together.
Teaming up people with people they don't like in our first trio match there.
So, quality match. By far, I thought this was the match of the night.
It was a great match.
Sexy Star totally held her own. We saw Superfly basically pull out all the stops and become more of a Rudo in how he was going after Sexy Star. Obviously, the crowd was completely behind Sexy Star. Did not want to see her lose her mask.
No, and she's a more developed character. I think it was pretty obvious who is going to win, but I like the way that they could be friends and really give it their all in a match and still be friends at the end of the match.
Yeah.
They were able to separate their relationship from what was happening in the ring.
Yeah, and Sexy Star was obviously, bothered by the fact that she was going to have to rip off the mask from Superfly. The mask means so much in Mexican wrestling that, that's total, embarrassment. That's shame for your family. So for her to have to do that, Superfly obviously, made her feel super uncomfortable.
Sure. But from the standpoint of someone who's not, who really doesn't follow wrestling, looking at it as a PR move, he was kind of forgettable to me in the mask and the pants. When they unmasked him, I could see, he's kind of a good looking guy. I think that from a PR standpoint, he might do better promoting himself as a wrestler using his own face than with a mask.
Except he won't. Because after the match, Pentagon Jr. came out, attacked him, broke his arm. So maybe we'll see him after his arm heals
He might
up.
emerge as another character, kind of like Big Rick after he got his eyeball burnt out.
Well, sure. There is an opportunity for him to come back. When he comes back, he'll have an obvious feud.
They didn't really play him up much as Superfly, and I wonder if this is their chance of rebranding him a little.
And they suggested that. I mean, and that is usually the fork in the road for people who lose their mask. Do they continue where they've been going, or do they do something else? Do they change their character? This is an obvious opportunity for that. But I'm not sure what I want.
I don't know. It was a surprise match, but it turned out to be the best match of the night.
Yeah. So Pentagon Jr. Attacked again Superfly, and Sexy Star made the save, but it was too late.
What was she doing? Because it looked like she was just sitting on the side of the ring, kind of going, why, to the sky. Instead of just jumping in and saving them like before. What was going on outside of that ring?
She got knocked out of the ring.
Was she knocked out?
No. She was just knocked off the apron, and when that happens, that's a large fall. That's like a good 4 feet.
It just wasn't super believable to me, given that she had launched her body physically out of that ring several times just in the last 10 minutes.
Well, there's a difference between a planned, aerial assault and falling off.
It was just a little awkward to me, just the staging, because it made me think, does she want him to get his arm broken?
Yeah, by the time she got into the ring, it was too late. It had already happened. So, but super cool, very cool that Sexy Star went over here, and again that they gave her an opportunity to fight. And Vampiro didn't go on the entire match talking about how hot she was.
No, there was a great absence of that this episode. It's almost like they're listening to what their fans are saying and adjusting their commentary a little. Or maybe not.
All right, main event, King Cuerno versus Puma for the title. Hernandez and Mundo walked down the ring with Puma. Puma also wore a headdress. It was a Puma headdress.
Ridiculous.
It was pretty fantastic, actually.
It looked pretty fake.
It definitely looked fake.
Not that I see a lot of Pumas in Cleveland. We're not like the Puma capital of the world.
But just the fact that he wore that almost as retaliation for the fact that he was facing King Cuerno, so to get in King Cuerno's mind.
For sure it was a little mocking.
At the same time, I don't know how they did that last minute, how they pulled that off last minute, because like I didn't go into this week knowing that they were going to compete, and it seemed like he didn't know at the beginning of the night that he was going to face King Cuerno.
They were kind of like, surprise, we have a match for you. So maybe it was like his grandfather's and he found it in the closet or something. Like how I found my raincoat.
Yeah. So I don't know, but it was very cool. King Cuerno, he was going to be brought down to the ring by his team. Wasn't as at first, but then his team followed. And this team is amazing to me. Like, I can't think of who could defeat this team. But here it is. King Cuerno, Tejano, and Cage. That's a fantastic team. That's like an unstoppable team.
So, they keep comparing King Cuerno to something, and I just don't get it. It's so subtle. I think they're trying to say that he's a truck driver, with the deer and the comfy pants.
No.
He's not a truck driver?
No.
What is he?
I think they said he was what's that thing where
like a rancher, maybe?
They're outside and they're like they're trying to like catch wildlife. Oh, like
a farmer.
No, it's almost like a dog catcher, but in Mexico.
I don't know. You guys, the commentary was just so subtle this week.
Oh, I remember. Hunter.
What? I don't get that at all. If you combine a hunter and a machine, you know what you have? Factory farming.
Oh, I was going to say like an automated arrow shooter, like in Minecraft.
No.
Where it's got the dispenser and you could put a redstone line to it, and when someone steps on a pressure plate, arrows shoot out at you?
Possibly.
All right, so this is your main event, King Cuerno versus Puma for the Lucha Underground Championship. Pretty good match. I thought Cuerno, held his own, looked like he belonged there, but obviously that wasn't what they were building. What they were building was the Trios Championship match, so both teams got involved, and, at the end of the match, it turned into a six-man brawl. Everyone was in the ring fighting each other.
I disagree with you. I did not like this match. I was disappointed because Puma and Cuerno are such great wrestlers, and the way they were trying to push the trios, I just found it distracting. And it also seemed like, they cut to the gangs, the other two of each trio, and they'd be doing something sort of ringside, and they were kind of laughing and smiling, and they'd be making eye contact with the animal hats and tying people's feet up. And I almost got the impression that maybe they were trying to be a little funny or goofy. It wasn't funny. I just found it distracting.
I did not get that feeling that it was that they were trying to be funny. This was serious.
I just found it distracting. And then, like in the middle of the match, right before they'd go do a good move, they'd have to stop and like knock someone else out of the ring. And I just thought it took away from what otherwise could have been really good wrestling. Sure.
No, I agree with you with that. As far as the match goes, this wasn't the Puma versus King Cuerno match that we would get if they were seriously, if King Cuerno was seriously fighting for the title and that's all that was involved here, I think we would have gotten a much better match. But this is the first time that I can remember, at least, that we've had a filler match, because it had nothing to do with what was happening this week. It was to build the next match.
And I understand that, but I was still disappointed because we'd had such a good run of wrestling, and then for that to be the main event and the last thing, it was just kind of a letdown. Yeah,
and I can't think of another time where I felt like it, where this was filler, that this didn't matter. It was where they're going next. Usually it carries a lot more weight what's happening in the ring at that very moment. So, but while I do feel that way, I don't feel like it completely distracted me or detracted from what they were doing. I still like the story they're telling. I'm really excited about the 6-man that's going to happen next week.
That could go either way for me. That could be really exciting, or it could just end up being another 6-man brawl where I have a hard time focusing on what's going on in the ring. I have mixed feelings about it.
Only one team's going to advance in the trios tournament. You want to do quick predictions? Because that's the match next week. As far as what's been announced, it's going to be Cuerno, Tejano, and Cage versus Mundo, Hernandez, and Puma. So who do you see advancing in the tournament?
Oh, that's a hard call. Well, storyline, they've been pushing the Puma Conan thing. I want to say, just by looking at the names that I think are Cuerno, Tejano, and Cage team is going to win, but I certainly feel like there's going to be some kind of knockdown, drag out brawl with Conan getting involved between the Mundo and Puma, that sort of bizarre bro triangle they've got going on.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like tag team dysfunction, we've seen that pretty much every single team. So, I'm not totally counting out Mundo, Hernandez, and Puma, especially because of this match. We did see Puma argue with Hernandez because Hernandez helped him. But I don't see them advancing. For me, it's got to be Cuerno, Tejano, and Cage. If it's not those three, I think it's a mistake, because you can easily put Mundo and Hernandez in some type of feud, moving on to face Puma or have a triple threat match or something. We can easily do something with those three. Cuerno, Tejano, and Cage need something because they're not doing much.
I don't know. It's hard for me to make a wrestling prediction without being able to compare it to an episode of Murder, She Wrote. I just can't do it. That's how all my predictions go.
Right on. All right. Well, let's see what else. Oh, let's just go into wins fails. What was your win of the week?
My win of the week was Evilise's backwards bicycle kick. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm very happy that Ivelisse got as much offense as she did. Sexy Star, my win of the week, just the fact that she did everything that we wanted. That match was everything that we had wanted them to go in as far as Vampiro. Fails. What was your fail?
Animal hats. Oh God, those are so cheesy.
I don't know if this is necessarily a fail for me, but I feel like it's worth mentioning because we didn't mention it before. But the fact that Vampiro has like weird alignment issues. Like every week it seems like he's going in a different direction. Oh. This week he totally like tore down Conan.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That was a really they're obviously going somewhere with this, but during that last match there was some trash talk going on back and forth at our announce table. Stryker was like, Conan, he's a legend, and Vampiro was like, yeah, legend where?
Yeah, where? And it's just surprising because I don't remember that type of conversation happening before.
It was the kind of rudeness I didn't expect from a Canadian either.
I always remember them talking up how like great Conan is, and that was no different this week up until the main event, and then Vampiro just tore him down.
It just
both
stuck
times.
out. It was so obviously like
and there was no response. It was just like Stryker said Conan's a legend, Vampiro said where? And then they moved on to the next.
It's important because you get all your story information from the announcers. They're so important in Lucha Underground. So I think our prediction that there's going to be some kind of drama coming up with him is not too far off base.
Yeah, so that's not necessarily a fail, but I feel like that needed to be said.
It was interesting.
Yeah. All right, so again, next week we've got that trios tournament continuing with the two teams that were involved in this week's main event. Havoc, Ivelisse, and Helico, Big Rick, Mac, and Killshot. Those are the other two teams that have advanced so far. We're most likely going to get the crew involved in this. They're the only three-man team that was already defined. So I
really don't like the crew.
No, me neither, but I feel like they belong at least in a match to determine whether or not they advance.
To remind us that the first three-man group was the crew.
Aerostar, well, yes, that's accurate. Okay. Aerostar versus Drago, Sexy Star versus Pentagon Jr. Those are both possibilities. But I guess we'll find out. Final thoughts?
We are going strong. This is like our fourth episode in a row where we've really liked it. It seems like we came out of a bit of a slow slump. I like what they're doing with the writing, and I hope they can keep this up. Yeah, and everything you guys are saying, as far as on YouTube, Twitter, everything that you send us has been super positive about Lucha Underground. That seems to be the general vibe that everyone's getting at as of late. So yeah, good. Everything's cool. I've got no other final thoughts, but looking forward to next week. Mm-hmm. For more about us, you can check out fanstalklucha.com. Also drop a few dollars our way as we continue to work towards our goal at making the fanstalkwrestling.com podcast family pay for itself. Let's keep the conversation going. You can reach us on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, YouTube, as well as the comments on the site. All of that information is on fanstalklucha.com. And now that we've got FTL on its own feed, both on iTunes and Stitcher and TuneIn as well, just do us a solid and leave a rating and review. Let everyone know what you think about the show and that they should check it out. Because we definitely want to continue to grow this and to make this the
place that you talk Lucha Underground each and every week. See you next week.